It's time for Dave Day on Community NEPA News. But hey, look, this is John Eric Poli with us from SSP TV. And John, I'm happy you're here because there's two teams I want to talk to you about, your New York Yankees and also the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Let's start with Notre Dame, John. Big Saturday night game against Georgia, one of those games that can define a season, but it's still early in the year. And they lose 23-17. So two things I want to ask you as a journalist and also as a Notre Dame fan. To me, it kind of proved that Notre Dame could hang with anybody in the country. If I'm the College Football Playoff Committee, toward the end of the season, if Notre Dame wins out and they're on the cusp and they might make it in, I'd say, hey, I think they've proven that they could play with anybody here. I might put them in. Now, on the other hand, do you see it as a missed opportunity? Because maybe Notre Dame's been there already. They were in the College Football Playoff last year. I mean, you look at this and say, well, these are games they need to start winning now, and this was one they needed to get into the College Football Playoff. Or is it both?
So what did we talk about a couple weeks ago when I filled in for Dave? And that was saying, can Notre Dame turn the page and start being a consistent contender every single year? Well, what do they show? That they can be. You're competing with a team like Georgia. At the same time, when you look at Brian Kelly's record at Notre Dame, I think he's something now, is it 0-7, 0-8 against teams in the top five? The majority of those losses came by 14-plus points, but I think now, obviously, you do kind of turn that page because there you were going to a hostile environment in Georgia, and Notre Dame had the ball. They had a chance to go down and score a touchdown and win the game at the end, so they definitely are. I think they've turned that page. They seem like they are a legit contender. The schedule kind of, I think, plays out for them a little bit. Still some tough games left, but if they can run the table and there's a couple teams 11-1, Notre Dame's definitely in that conversation at the end of the year.
What really impressed me with Notre Dame is they came out and looked like the better team in the first half of this football game. And then when they had those few 3-and-outs in the third quarter and Georgia came back and they scored the unanswered points, I thought, not that they were going to get, that it was just going to be a runaway, but I thought, okay, Notre Dame put up a good fight. But the Irish come back in that fourth quarter and go toe-to-toe with Georgia. It will be interesting. Here's a look at some ranked teams on the schedule as of this week. They will play Virginia. No rest. They have to play number 18 Virginia at home this weekend. They get number 21 USC, and then they play number 20 Michigan. All right, John, let's talk about Penn State a little bit. They moved up in both polls on their bye week, but who is this team, John? I still don't think that I know. I need to see more from the Penn State team. They will play at Maryland this Friday night, and they'll close out their first third of the season. And then they go into a stretch, John, where they play number 14 Iowa, number 20 Michigan, number 25 Michigan State, before, of course, a late season showdown with Ohio State. And again, my emotions are all over the place, John. I'm invested in Penn State football, but I look at them and I think, this Big Ten's kind of wide open. Ohio State has looked very good, but Penn State could be one of those teams that challenges for a conference title. But also, I'm sitting here now, they're on the cusp of the top 10, and I'm worried about a game on a Friday night at Maryland, a game they should definitely win. So we'll see what Penn State can do. Can that Penn State offense find some consistency and get that defense some rest? All right, let's go to Major League Baseball postseason. As a Red Sox fan, John, I haven't paid attention in maybe a few months, so I'm relying on you here because your New York Yankees have run away with the AL East. They're battling for the best record in baseball right now with the Astros and the Dodgers. Luis Severino comes back, looks really good in his start, has to give you some promise for the postseason.
2 starts.
Yeah, and all season long, John, you've been saying maybe that starting pitching is the only question, but they've been doing some things that's been working. They have that really strong bullpen. Obviously, the offense is incredible. So heading to the postseason, feeling pretty good?
Yeah, the only thing is Houston's still that tough team. Like Houston in a pitching in a short series like that. I mean, you picture when you have 3 studs going for Houston, if they get off to 2-1 or 3-0 start with those starting pitchers, that's going to be really tough to come back on them. With the Yanks, though, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with their rotation because you just lose Gurman out for the year with the domestic violence thing. Severino has come back and looked good. So you think Paxton's got to be your number 1 with the second half of the year he's been having. You get Severino on the 2 spot. I'm interested to see. A lot of teams go 4-man rotations. When the Yanks won in 2009, they only went with the three-man rotation, but being that the Yanks the whole year have done a spot starter, bringing in a guy, pitch 2 innings, take him out, another guy comes in 2 innings. Do you try with your strong bullpen? Do you try that in the postseason for a game? That's what I'm interested to see. But, I mean, if those bats come alive for the Yanks, they can beat anybody in baseball with those bats. So the starting pitching, still the question as you go into the postseason.
All right, John, I wanted to close off with your bread and butter. I'm talking about combat sports. Of course, you know John Eric Poli from the Counterpunch here on SSP TV. What's going on? You said there's a big pay-per-view coming up.
Yes.
What's going on in the world of combat sports?
Yeah, well, in 2 weeks, you're going to have Robert Whittaker finally defending his middleweight championship against Israel Adesanya. A lot of people looking forward to that. And that's a solid card, too. You also have Ali Aquina coming back after his loss to Cowboy Cerrone, fighting Dan Hooker, an Australian. The fight's in Australia. It's actually the fight. The fun thing about this fight is the arena. They're expecting that this pay-per-view in October, it will be the biggest crowd that the UFC has ever had in attendance for a fight. So that's going to be pretty cool. Holly Holm, also famous for knocking out Ronda Rousey, she'll be on the card. So, that'd be pretty cool. And then just because I have to mention Ioane and Jacek, I'm a big fan, the following weekend she fights against Michelle Waterson. So that's a huge matchup in the women's strawweight division. The winner of that fight might be getting a title fight. So a lot of good fights coming up in the next couple weeks.
All right, well, John, thank you for your time today. And if you are watching SSP TV News this week, Wednesday, we always have the high school football Cole Scale rankings. And all this week, you can watch an in-depth feature story on the Monterey area football team. For right now, I'm Ken Carr. Take it easy, everyone.